Hey, it's Wednesday, and that means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower, and today this is the End of Grief Part 2. Strongly encourage you, if you haven't already, to watch the End of Grief Part 1 that you can find on my YouTube channel. I'll also post a link down in the description below, so you can find it that way. Just strongly encourage you to watch it because it'll set up a little bit better what I'm talking about today. Today I'm going to discuss 5 things that you need to do if you really want to get over grief, and I might kind of reference some backstory, my own experience and a friend's experience that I talked about in part 1. Don't have to watch it. I think this is you should be able to at least understand what I'm talking about, but if you just want some more context and kind of set the stage better, strongly encourage you to go back and watch part 1 before watching this. But if not, I'm going to go ahead and move forward and talk about the 5 things that it requires to actually move past and get over grief. And then just a little context to why I'm doing these videos. There's a lot of conventional wisdom out there that you'll be sad forever, right? That once you lose a spouse, or it could be any loved one, a child, a parent, or whatever, that you'll be sad forever. And I see this becoming more and more prominent in my coaching sessions. I'll have clients and stuff where they're just like, well, I can't ever be happy again. I'm like, no, you can be happy again. If someone's telling you can't be happy again, you shouldn't listen to them, okay? Because you can be happy again. And again, go back to part 1. I tell my story about how how my grief came to an end. And again, I tell a story of a friend who lost her husband, again under tragic circumstances, not through death, but lost him in a very tragic way, and how she overcame grief. So that's just kind of setting up the stage for this video, and just understanding that we always expect people to overcome grief, don't we? We expect them to overcome their tragedies and to be better people. Same with losing whatever it is. If you lose someone to death, you can overcome grief, and we're going to talk about how to do that today. So 5 things you need to do in order for grief to end. The first one is it has to be something that you want to end. It has to be something that you want to stop grieving and you want to be happy again. I know some of you are thinking, well, that's kind of an odd thing to say. Who don't people want to be happy? And the truth is, no, not everyone wants to be happy. Again, I have had clients and I've talked to people at conferences and stuff, and they enjoy being sad and miserable. I don't understand it. I don't pretend to understand it. Other than maybe a lot of their identity is wrapped up in them being a widow or widower or something like that. But basically, the first thing you've got to do is you have got to have the desire mentally. You have got to want to be happy again, because it doesn't matter anything else I talk about here. If it's not something you want to do, if you don't want to be happy again, if you don't want to, be able to go through life without being sad and miserable, or even being triggered, right? Just going through a normal day and having something trigger you, and be okay with that, and be able to look back on that person and just be happy about the memories. If that's not something you want, then stop this video and go watch something else. I don't know, but you need to have this a desire again. And I know that there's some of you out there that are watching this and are thinking, well, I want to be happy, but I don't know exactly what that means. What does it mean to be happy again? Does it mean whatever, I remarry, or whatever, I do all these other things? Okay, I don't know. If you want to get into like really personal things, you can schedule a coaching session with me. I'm just saying that you just need to have the desire to want to be happy again. Even if you don't know what that exactly looks like, that's fine. I think what I talk about in this video can help you get there a little bit. And again, if you want some more personal coaching, schedule a coaching session and I can get back to you. But just know that it's okay that if you don't know exactly what being happy looks like, or what your future looks like when you're happy. The point is you've got to have this mental desire to want to be happy again. That you want to say, what, I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to put in the effort to take those steps and be happy again. And if you're there, then step 2, 3, 4, and 5 are going to come right along. Okay, so that's step 1, is you got to want to be happy again. Okay. Pretty easier said than done for some people, but I think most of you watching this are probably there. You want to be happy again. You're looking for answers. So let's go to step 2. Step 2 is to change your physical environment. Again, step 2 is to change your physical environment. So that basically involves getting rid of things or changing things physical things, physical objects that hold us back and remind us of the past. Now, you have to understand that physical things, they're emotional. If you think of a house or something like that, I'll just use a very general example I see all the time is that, a widower loses his spouse and the house kind of becomes a memorial to her, right? The house is full of memories, it's full of pictures, it's all kinds of things. And he gets into a relationship and he has a hard time changing the house, right? Taking down photos, doing whatever it takes to make his new girlfriend happy. And that's because we have a strong physical, we have emotional attachments to physical objects, and mostly it's not the object itself that we're attached to, but it's the memories and things that are associated with that. So, example, you can look at photographs, for example. They remind us of certain places and times and good memories that way. Just any kind of physical object that we're emotionally attached to. Again, there's nothing wrong necessarily with having this emotional attachment. That's not what I'm saying. But the point is that there are physical things that just kind of hold us back, and they remind us of the past instead of moving us forward. So it involves you looking around at your physical environment and deciding the best way to change it. Does it mean taking the photos down, or selling a car, or selling a house, or doing things like that, doing things that can make you happy. And again, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to throw everything away. I mean, you can box it up and do whatever, but you need to look at your physical environment and see what it is that you can change. That kind of gives you a fresh outlook and a fresh look on life. And I know there's some of you thinking like, well, I'd love to sell the house, but I can't do it. And again, you don't have to sell the house, okay? But you can paint the walls. You can make changes to your actual physical environment, right? You can take down things that remind you of the past, or you can get rid of objects or pack up objects, or give them away to a family member or a thrift store, or just to the dump even. But if you know that there's things that are holding you back, some physical objects that are doing that, it's time to move forward and change that environment. And just anything physical that's holding you back, that brings back memories. You need to somehow find a way to get that out of your sight, because there's nothing better than having a brand new thing. And again, if you want an example from my own life, again, I think many of you know I sold my house after I married Juliana, and we moved to a town, I think it was like 30 miles south, and started a new life together. The house itself had no memories or anything like that. I bought it after Krista died. So there wasn't any like emotional attachment there, but the main reason I sold the house is because I wanted a fresh start. The house was kind of in the middle of this area that Krista and I had lived in. There was lots of memories there. The main reason I sold the house was for the sake of my marriage, and we just wanted to start a new life with Juliana in a new place where we could make new memories. Again, I'm not saying you have to sell a house. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. Juliana would have been fine moving into that house, but she probably would have made some changes and repainted walls and done stuff like that, and I would have been okay with that. So again, if there's things that are holding you back emotionally, figure out a way to get rid of them. Again, there's books and stuff I can recommend on the subject as well. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is to maybe reevaluate and change those who we associate with. All right. So in short, don't hang out with people that hold you back. I can't tell you how many times you're with people, and for whatever reason, every time you're with them, they want to remember all the good old days, right? And they want to remember what it was like with the late wife or whoever it was. And that's like their whole point of existence, because they're emotionally wrapped up in that. Don't hang out with people that won't help you move forward. I actually have another YouTube video that I encourage you to look at. It's called, it's about widowers, why they need to reevaluate relationships. And a lot of it has to do with this very thing, is that it's easy for us to get stuck in patterns where we're with people that aren't good for us. Think of a job, for example. How many times have you left a job or considered quitting a job, not because you didn't like the job itself, because the people that you worked with were kind of toxic and kind of bad people, and maybe and things like that? Or how many of you have kids, right? And you've told your kids, hey, maybe you should reconsider hanging out with these people, some of your friends. It's not, again, that you don't want them to have friends or don't want them to hang out, but, these people that are with them can, or maybe sending them down the wrong path or helping them make bad choices or things like that. It's the same. It's the same after losing a spouse or anybody else through death. Those people that we hang out with, oftentimes, not all the time, but many times it's easy for them to hold you back and to stop you from moving on, because they don't want to move on, or maybe their identity again is again, I think here's a common example is that it's easy, maybe the widower and his late wife had a group of friends that they hung out with, and the group of friends kind of built that identity around this couple thing, and you try to introduce someone else to that environment and it doesn't work, or you have, again, just people that always want to talk about the deceased, and it's not good for you. You can't have people like that in your life and expect to move forward. Again, I had to reevaluate a lot of relationships when I was dating Julianne and after I married her. Again, you can look back on previous videos. I'm no longer in contact with my late wife's family. That has nothing to do with the fact that they were holding me back, but just priorities and things change, and you lose contact with people. I'd like to see my late wife's brother once in a while. If you're watching this, Scott, hey, let's, send me a message. Let's hang out once in a while. But you have to reevaluate relationships and get away from people that are holding you back. Even no matter how close you are to them, friends, family, there are people that for whatever reason they may not realize that they're doing it. I'll be fair. I don't think they're intentionally out there. Well, I'm gonna go out there and sabotage so and so's life or whatever. I don't think that's the case. But you do need to reevaluate who you associate with, and you need to kind of examine relationships. And if you are with people that are holding you back and they're not allowing you for whatever reason to move forward, time to reevaluate that relationship and end it or peel it back and hang around with people that are okay with you moving forward and want you to be happy again. Again, it happens more often than I think. The biggest obstacle I think I come up with in coaching sessions is just the widowers themselves who maybe aren't ready or don't want to move on. But the second biggest obstacle, I think, is just friends or family of the widower who don't want him to move on for whatever reason. And when I say change with those who we associate, I'm going to throw in social media on that as well. I think, are you following people, or are you looking at things on social media that hold you back? Again, I'm not a huge fan of social media, but I understand it does have a purpose. But the cool thing is you've got a lot of control over your social media. You don't have to just look at whatever Facebook feeds you. You can unfollow or unfriend or block people or do whatever it is. You can stop people from tagging you. So you don't have, you can control your feed a lot better. So it's not only just people that you associate with in real life, but if there's people on social media that are holding you back, find a way to at least not see what they're posting, because again, you have control over your life. It's not just some algorithm that Facebook or anybody else is going ahead and feeding you. Okay, so that's number 3. So again, number 1 is, you have to want grief to end. Number 2 is change your physical environment. Number 3 is change those who we associate with, assuming that they're holding you back. Number 4 is to find a new purpose in life. One thing I do see commonly is that those who have lost a spouse, a lot of their identity was wrapped up in that marriage, and not necessarily that that's a bad thing. It's nice to be so-and-so's spouse, you know what I mean? Because a spouse is a big part of your life and should be a big part of your life. So again, I don't have anything wrong with that, but oftentimes it's hard to make that transition or to find a new purpose in life, right? It's like, you've been a mom or a dad or whatever, and the kids leave the house. I've seen it, where kids leave the house and then it's like, they're still a parent, but they don't have kids living at home, and it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do, right? The fourth thing you need to do is you need to find a new purpose in your life. And here's some ways that you can do it, because I know some of you are thinking, well, how do I find a new purpose in your life? You can go out there and you can find it through a religion or some faith group, right? Lots of different faith groups out there. I know that mine helped me when a Krista died. It did add a lot of perspective and meaning through what I was going through. I'll also tell you that I do have the belief that I'll see Krista and Hope again, and that helps a lot. But by the way, if you have questions about that, you want to talk to me about that, I'm more than happy to share. Go ahead and leave a comment or contact me through my website. But you can find a purpose in life through faith or religion. You can do it through service to others, looking around your neighborhood, looking around your family, looking around your community. What are some ways that you can go out there and help people? I mean, it can be as simple as regularly volunteering at a soup kitchen, for example, or finding other ways to help and serve others. Maybe you have a neighbor that's for whatever reason can't take care of her lawn or something like that. Go ahead and find a way to help that neighbor. But if you can find a new purpose in life, it'll really help you. Another way to go ahead and do it is to maybe join a civic group or a cause or something that you really go ahead and believe in, and just dedicate some of your time and energy to that. There's lots of ways to find a purpose in life. There's probably some better ways than others, but if you find yourself, if your life feels like it doesn't have any meaning now that your spouse has died, okay, let's go out and figure out a new way to do it. Again, there's faith, there's service to others, there's civic groups and causes out there that you can go and help, and trust me, they would really appreciate help. They would love volunteers, or I don't know, maybe there's other ways you can help, but you need to find a new purpose, and maybe an additional purpose is another way to phrase it, in your life. But having no purpose in life and being is a guaranteed way to be miserable and depressed and sad. We all need meaning to our lives, no matter what kind of life we're living. Everybody needs some kind of meaning and feel like they have a reason that they're doing. I know some of you are thinking, well, what about my job? I work, what can I do something there? I don't have a problem with that, but I think compared to maybe some causes or service or faith, jobs are kind of transitory, and let's be honest, with most businesses, as soon as they don't need you for some reason, you're out the door. So I kind of discourage you. I think it's good to work and to keep busy after you lose a spouse, but maybe not necessarily tie in your identity to your job or something like that. I think there's better ways to do it. Again, religious organizations, service, and civic groups and things like that, or just find ways to give your life a little more meaning. Okay, so that's number 4. So number 5, and this can actually be the most difficult part for someone, is that you have to work very hard at this. This isn't something, ending grief and just, coming out on the other side isn't something that just happens because you want to happen. It's not just this, hey, I'm just going to will the universe for this to happen. Again, we talked in the very first step, it has to be something that you want, but it can't stop there. You can't just sit there and wish and daydream that things were, that grief will end and you'll be happy again. It doesn't work that way. It takes work, and it takes a lot of it. So think about it to yourself. Do you know anyone who's overcome anything, who's built a better life for themselves, who have overcome challenges, not just necessarily death, but anything else, without a lot of work? I mean, how many times does the universe deal you a bad hand or something like that, and then then suddenly it just turns around and deals you a good hand? That doesn't happen very often. More often than not, once life hands you lemons, you've really got to work hard to make that a lemonade, no matter what it is. Loss of a job, anything else, people usually got to work pretty hard to find another job, or at least one that they enjoy and is just as good. It takes work. So, and it's the same with overcoming grief. It means you have to get out of bed every day and put the effort into creating this new life, whatever that looks like. It means you got to get out of bed, and maybe one day you take down the photos on the wall. The next day you paint the wall. The next day you get new carpet or something like that. Or maybe it means that, you get up and, maybe though you don't want to, you've got to go volunteer at this group or something that you've joined. Or maybe it means, finding new friends or things like that, or getting off of social media, which would be a great thing too. All of this takes work. It just doesn't happen. If you want something out of this life, you've got to work for it. And happiness isn't just handed out to random people. You know what I mean? It's given to those who work day and night at it. Again, if you watch the End of Grief Part 1, I told you about my my friend who again lost and again watched part one, but lost her husband to tragic circumstances. It took her years to get over what her husband had done and all those things, but she got over it. But again, I followed her on social media. It was work. It wasn't just something that just happened. She had to create a new life for her and her kids, and there was a lot of down days, and sometimes more down days than up days, but she worked at it for years until she could find a place where she found peace with it. Just like me and Krista, if you again watch part one, I told you how I kind of ended my grief journey with Krista, and I can look back at those times and be happy about it, and I'm not sad anymore. But it took years. It took years, and again, there were days I was just like, man, this is never going to go away. But I slowly built my life back, and again, you can read about how I started to build my life in Room for Two. I talk about it in Dating a Widower. I've got other videos on this, but this wasn't just something that just randomly happened. I put a lot of time and effort into this, into moving forward and starting a new life. And if you want to go ahead and start a new life, if you're done being sad, more power to you, but you have got to put the effort into it. And it's going to be something every day. And it's, what, I guarantee there's going to be days where it's going to be like, and maybe 2 or 3 days in a row, or maybe a week in a row where it's like, this isn't worth it. I'm not going anywhere. But the minute you give up and you go back to the way things are, life goes back to the way it was. There'll be no change. There'll be no progress. You have got to go ahead and work hard at this. So again, the 5 things you've got to do is mentally, it has to be something that you want to end. You got to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Then the next thing you've got to do is you've got to change your physical environment. Then the next thing you've got to do is you got to change with those change your physical environment if it's holding you back. You've got to do an evaluation of that. Next, you've got to change with those, again, do an evaluation of those who you associate with. They're holding you back, got to make some changes. The next one is to find a new purpose in your life. Again, lots of ways to do that. Religious organizations, serving others, civic groups, causes, things like that. And then the 5th thing is you have got to be able to put the work into it. You've got to get out of bed every day. You've got to change your habits and change things. You've got to know, you have got to look forward and say, you know what, I'm done being sad and I'm making changes to my life. Again, other things that might work. Besides just getting out of bed every day, that's like the big step. But I'm going to change the way that I eat. I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to get a better job. I'm going to move. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And again, lots of ways to do it, but it does require work. And I promise you, though, that the work is worth it. Imagine a life where you're just happy and you can think of your late wife or whoever it is, whatever kind of grief you're trying to overcome, not be angry, not be sad, not be bitter, not grieve. It's a wonderful feeling. I'm Abel Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower. Please go ahead and subscribe or comment or share your own stories below. Love to read those. If you want to schedule a coaching session, you can go to my website, abelkeogh.com, abelkeogh.com, and you can schedule a session as well. I'm Abel Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower, and I will see you next Wednesday.